So, Don't Park in the Grass after DQs barely smidged out as a major for Ultimate. And it was definitely overall solid one, but what obviously was the main highlight was that we finally had Sparg0 versus Mia for grand finals. And this was pretty much like the battle for number one. If Mia won, there's a good chance he probably would have ended up as number one. And if Sparg0 won, he pretty much solidified number one. And lo and behold, yeah, Sparg0 ended up winning the entire event. Trading sets with Mia, he did go 2-1 in sets with Mia. And I believe now they are not lifetime, but this season 2-2. At this point, Sparg0 is considered the best player in the world. I don't think anyone's going to argue otherwise. And we'll get in a little more to that later. So the funny thing with this major is that when you look at it, the top 8, a lot of it looks like Japan kind of just came out and showed up and beat everyone. But pretty much all the players who made top 8 from Japan were seeded to do so. A lot of North America didn't really show up. But the best USA representation who did was Louis Money, and he held ground. God damn, this was an amazing run. He was a player who was, for this season, pretty, like, solid case for being top 50, but this kind of pretty much solidified it. Those wins over Ken and Shuton in game 5 sets were incredibly close. Yeah, this was an excellent run for third. I'm glad, because I feel like Louis Money's always been the player that he can do it. He's always felt like he can do it, but it's just, from what I've heard, always struggled with the mental aspects of the game, and it seems like he finally just was able to get everything to lock into place this one tournament, and hopefully he continues to do so, because I genuinely think he is an outstanding player and will continue to do these kinds of runs if he gets to like be in that position where he knows he can play this way. And I think this is a big boost that he needed for his own confidence to do so. When you look at everything statistically, Sparg0 has it. He is going to be the best. I don't think there's really a world where any way, shape, or form any player is above him. He is the most consistent at the top. He overall most likely has the best wins across the top 20 from the best that I can think of. He's either close or tied to the most major wins with Mia. Sparg0 has 4, Mia has 5. Okay. So yeah, they're close enough to the point where I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference. I don't really see any way that he loses this spot, and I don't really see any way anyone can overthrow him from this spot. Even if, say, Mia beats him at Lax Rivals, I don't see a world where Mia is ranked above Sparg0 just due to those lulls that Mia had at Supernova and Riptide. And even then, that one major win that Mia has, I don't think cancels out just Sparg0's overall better record this season across the board. He's only missed one major top 8, which I believe was Lit-Vitational. When you compare him to Mia, there's no one else who has his level of consistency at the top. And like, the only other player who does is Akala, but Akala is not really attending a lot, and he doesn't have the wins that he needs to even be close, and won't get those wins either, even if you say he wins Ulcore this next weekend, because he's just too outpaced at this point. There's no way for him to even get close to number one. He's too outpaced by Mia at this point as well. So that gets me to this next topic, and I'm going to show a tweet. I'm not flaming the person who sent the tweet. It's just a rhetoric I've seen going around regarding Lumi rank. I'm not a big fan of it because it feels very disingenuous to say this to the people who work on this kind of stuff. And once again, I'm not flaming the person. This is just the example tweet I have on deck because it was the easiest to find. There has been this rhetoric that people think that Lumi rank is not going to put Sparg0 as number one this season. And honestly, as someone who's been working on this stuff for a long time, I find this just genuinely disrespectful. I get that there's people, like let's zoom back out for a bit. I get in the first half of 2023, there's people who thought Sparg0 should have been ranked number one over Akala. And that really comes down to if you thought his peaks really outweighed the insanely high remarks of consistency that Akala had that season. As I said, I'm not pointing out Shattuck. I've talked to him before. He's a great guy. I'm not like, this is just the first tweet I was able to find because all the others were from random people. But there's just been a rhetoric that we're not going to rank him number one because we apparently have biases towards Japan, which is absolute horseshit. If you don't think the people who've been working on rankings for years, and I mean like I'm coming up on a decade, like for years, aren't going to make the most accurate ranking possible as their mission when doing so, then I have a bridge to sell you, because that's insane. We're not being overly biased to Japan. That's just not what's going on. And there's no way Mia is going to be #1 over Sparg0 at this point. If the player who is in his own tier is statistically the best player, he's going to be ranked as #1. And I fully trust in the algorithm that Stuart has developed to put Sparg0 there, because it's incredibly well done. And then I feel like people are just also not really paying attention to the other side of the scene, even though they're very much more so the powerhouse of the scene right now. And like, once again, not flaming Deathspade. I've met this Deathspade. I know they mean well. I know this is kind of like a tongue-in-cheek you ain't ready for when Japan spawns 2 P tiers out of thin air. But like, we know what the remainder of Japan season is at this point. Like Smash Awesome, that's not this season. The only tournaments they have left are pretty much Ulcore and Sumabato. Anything else at this point has already been announced. Kaioken's not going to be a major. People don't go to Hokkaido. It's far up north. People don't go. That is the only other big event after Sumabato. And Sumabato isn't even going to be that big for Sumabato standards. Every other Japanese tournament we know of is already known for out of season. And we know that Smash Awesome and Sumabato 54 and My Suma Top are probably going to be pretty big tournaments. But they're not this season. There's no good P tiers are happening. If you actually looked at the calendar, you'd know that they have 2 more and that's it. And there's no way anyone could take or steal or get the Japan bias of #1 over Sparg0. Another point I just want to make is that tweets like this kind of hurt the perception of the few established things that Smash has. And I feel like while it's fine to criticize the ranking, and while it's fine to talk to us about the hardships of what you think is things that can be improved on the player side, creating doubt in what the team does and acting as if we don't put the time into making this as great as possible in terms of its accuracy, in terms of its presentation, and kind of being like, oh, the player who's objectively statistically #1 isn't going to be ranked #1 because XYZ. That's not a good look for the scene to showcase towards these players. And once again, not flaming Shattuck, not trying to slay this personally. This is a rhetoric that I've seen across multiple tweets, and I think it's something that I want to nip in the bud because it's not a healthy thing to have.